So I'm back at the local coffee shop. It's called Mindal, and just want to report on what happened yesterday. It was quite a very, very interesting day. I started off by coming here to the coffee shop and talking about what happened on Victory Day and how I ended up getting to Volgograd about 2 hours late. So I missed the parade, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. But anyway, so after that, I met my friends Irina and Nellie, and we met at this large monument to the people who fought for Stalingrad in World War II in the Great Patriotic War. So we met around 4:30 or so, and I was just kind of hanging out in the park there until they showed up. And then we had made an arrangement to have a yoga class at 7 p.m. So this is we were going to do, Nellie set up a meditation class, and she found this one studio that looked quite suitable, and so we were going to go there, but first we stopped off, just had some coffee, and I had a hot chocolate at a local cafe, and then we proceeded to walk towards the yoga studio. But we had some time, and but on the way we saw a synagogue. They said, "Oh, there's a synagogue." I thought, synagogue? That's really interesting. Here in the middle of Volgograd, and sure enough, it was an actual operating synagogue. And it looked kind of deserted, but there was a man outside, and he looked like so you see pictures of the Jewish community here in Russia, and you see them meeting with Vladimir Putin, and these people are the really super Orthodox. They've got the black hats and the long, they call them payas, these kind of long strips of hair hanging down. But I didn't see anybody like that. It was just a couple of older guys, but then they took me inside, and I met this young woman there, and we started talking. Of course, she spoke some English, and Nellie, helped out with translation. But it was really, really interesting because they were telling me about the history of this synagogue, and it turns out that there it was in the middle of Stalingrad, where nearly everything got leveled, and there's hardly a building standing, and yet this synagogue was one of the few things left, one of the few buildings left standing in Stalingrad during the Second World War, and they actually have a wall with bullet holes in it just to show people that it was hit by bullets, but it didn't get leveled the way a lot of other places did, which the Russian Jewish lady said was a miracle, which you could say, against all odds, it apparently seemed that it was a miracle. So that was really interesting, and I went in there, and they went into the I guess you'd call it the chapel, whatever, and you could see, yep, it looked just like a synagogue. It was it had a kind of a box where the Torahs, the sacred texts are kept, and went on, and then you could see there is some of the ritual clothing that Jews use when they're praying, and so it was a real operating synagogue, and apparently there's a fair number of people who are living there and are practicing Judaism in Volgograd, and of course she invited me to come back anytime. I was there on a Tuesday, and unfortunately I wouldn't be there on a Friday, because that would be quite interesting to go to a Russian Jewish synagogue service. I don't think I'll be coming back to Volgograd anytime soon at this point, unfortunately, but it was really interesting to be there. So then we went off, and we went to the yoga class. This is a yoga studio, I should say, and there were about 10 young women there. They were all, I would say, in their 20s, And the owner of the place, according to Nellie, is this woman who's 24 years old, I think 24, 25 years old, and she's got a yoga business. She runs by herself in this yoga studio, and it's a nice, nice studio. And so I proceeded to do the usual stuff that I do, where I basically introduce myself, explain my background, and then tell people what we're going to do, which basically consists of my giving some warm-up stretches, and then some specific instruction on how to practice meditation. And then we sat for about 15 minutes, which is what I usually do, because I know that it's not easy for people to meditate, for longer periods, even though in a typical Zen community, a typical Zendo, as we call in the Zen meditation hall, we usually sit for 25, 30 minutes, or we sit for 40 minutes. But I knew that that's kind of too much. Now, so Nellie is quite a good yoga student, and she has done meditation. Now, my friend Irina has not done meditation before, and I think she was kind of nervous about it, actually. And she tells me that she feels anxiety, and I said, believe me, I understand anxiety. I've certainly had enough anxiety when I was practicing Zen meditation, especially in the early years. Not so much now, but they're still there, but nowhere near what it was when I first started practicing. And I basically pointed out to people that when you meditate and you practice and you basically, when any kind of thought or feeling, emotion comes up, you always just return to your breathing. We basically do a very simple exercise of counting your breaths. Breathe in, breathe out, count 1, breathe in, breathe out, count 2, up to 10, and then you start over again. But the thing is that usually people either lose count. Nellie told me she actually counted up to 20. She forgot that she was supposed to go back to 10, which I thought was pretty interesting. But on the other hand, most people lose count after maybe 3 or 4 or 5. And I just explained to people that when that happens, you simply, start over again, starting again at, breathing in and breathing out, counting 1 up to 10, and then starting over again. So Nellie did fine with that. Irina had some difficulty, and one of the main things that I emphasize is that it's important not to move when they're meditating, because the whole, as I point out to people, our mind is always playing tricks on us. It wants to distract us from just being focused on just one thing. This what do they call it, ADHD? People are unable to focus, unable to maintain attention on one task. And this is a huge issue in modern society, but that's how it is. And so meditation is the perfect antidote to it. And people have a lot of difficulty with it. And it's kind of scary, actually, because there's always, if you're just like you're sitting somewhere, heaven forbid you just go back to your breathing. Oh, I have to go to my mobile phone. I have to do this. I got to do that. We allow our minds to get distracted by things. And so even when you're sitting, you'll feel an itch, so you got to scratch the itch. Well, no, you're not supposed to scratch the itch when you're meditating. Just let it be an itch, and you just feel it. And it could be, or pain in your legs, whatever it might be. And for 15 minutes, people should be able to handle that. And that's the whole point, to maintain some discipline. This is how we discipline our mind. We become our own teacher, so to speak. So I did that for 15 minutes, and then I showed them how to do walking meditation. So we were walking, and basically we walked in kind of a circle, did one round in the room, and came back to our place, and then we sat for another. Usually I do for 15 minutes, but we were running kind of short on time to meet our other friends for dinner. So we sat for just 10 minutes, and then we opened it up for questions. And people, asked various kinds of questions. One of them was asking a question about herself, and I said, she was asking, I forget exactly what, she was asking a question about her personality or self. And I said, does your little fingernail know that your name is Kate? And she says, no. I said, well, you know, when you were born, you had no idea who you were. It's the people gave you the name Kate, and you grew up with the idea that you are Kate. But you're not Kate, you're what people told you you are. But we want to, in Zen practice, we want to get to our true nature before all the conditioning that we've been subjected to. And so they found that to be a really interesting topic. And other people ask questions, you know, about moving and different things. But the thing that what really struck me was that we had to kind of cut the meeting short because Nellie and Irina and I were going to meet some other people. So they said, "Oh, can we meet tomorrow?" So after I finish this video, I'm going to go off and we'll meet them again, and we'll continue the discussion. So I was very heartened by that because people are really interested in a few people are interested in it. Now, it was Irina said, and then one of the issues that came up was trauma, because I point out that trauma is one of the major sources of suffering, you know, in modern society, and it's not just modern society. I think this is a natural problem with human beings. You know, bad things happen and we don't know how to process it. So it becomes a kind of an albatross around our necks, you know, holding us back. So I brought up the name of this guy named Gabor Mate, who is a Holocaust survivor, and he talked about how he dealt with the extreme trauma of a child, you know, a little 1-year-old baby, being under Nazi occupation, and I don't know what happened to his mother, but he was given to some people, and he survived the war. But it was, you know, extremely traumatic for him, and the way when people are traumatized, they look for ways out of it. They look for distractions and all kinds of distractions, and he realized at one point that being distracted doesn't help. You have to be willing to feel the feeling what it actually felt like to be abandoned by your mother, even though it wasn't her fault. It was the conditions. And this is how we process trauma, is to just be with that feeling. And when we accept it instead of pushing it away, that is how we heal. And of course, what I maintain is that when these emotions are going to come up in your meditation practice, because you're not distracting yourself, so this stuff that you don't want to face starts to come up, and people don't want to look at it. But with meditation practice, what you're doing is you're addressing the problem directly. So when you feel these kinds of feelings, there's no place to go, nothing to do, except breathe and feel it. And strangely enough, when you allow that to happen, the trauma gradually loses its control over you. Yes, it happened, but you can let it go. So that's basically what I was talking about. And, you know, and of course it's a long process. I can't say that, you know, having experienced my own fairly generous share of trauma, that, you know, I'm you know, a completely whole and healthy person, but I'm a lot less anxious and so on than I used to be before I started practicing. So that was the very nice experience I had with them. And these are all young people, I would say probably women. For some reason in Russia, and I found in China as well, men seem not to be interested in yoga, even though yoga was really a male, you know, discipline in India. And the major teachers who brought yoga to the United States, I'm thinking of Patabi Joy, who was the Ashtanga yoga teacher, and Bikram, and there were a couple of other, Shivananda. These were male yoga teachers. But for some reason in Russia and in China, in my experience, there are very few men are interested in it. So, but one funny thing that happened was when I was on the train, I met this guy named Roman, and he's 21 years old, and he said he wants a son. Nice guy, very intelligent person. He was reading a book called The Psychology of War. So you have this 21-year-old kid, and these people are deep thinkers, you know. That's what I like about Russia, is you can actually have meaningful conversations with people instead of, you know, the foolishness that pervades most societies nowadays. So I said, so when we were on the train, I said, by the way, I have this. Oh, and this, he brought up the subject of God, and we were talking about God, and he said, I don't believe in a sky God and, you know, that sort of thing, monotheism. So I said, well, your point of view is very close to pantheism, which was he was a Jewish philosopher named Spinoza. Do you know of Spinoza? No, I've never heard of him. So I said, well, you know, your point of view is actually not too far from, rather close to a Buddhist point of view. It's not the same, but it's closer. And I said, I'm going to be doing and he said, I said, I'm going to be doing a meditation class, you know, and you're invited to go. And he said, well, I know who I am, so I don't need meditation. So that was interesting. So, but after the class, I said to my friend Nellie and Irina, here's this guy. He says he wants a son, so he's going to need a wife. And I thought, you know, what better place to look for a good wife than to go to a yoga studio? So I sent him a message yesterday and said, hey, you know, here's some pictures of the people that came to the meditation class. You might be interested, because they're all women. They're, you know, early 20s. One woman, Kate, I asked her how old she was. She says she's 23. I started practicing when I was 22. So, so this is a good trend, you know, when you have people who are interested in spirituality and cultivating themselves, trying to improve themselves. This is how you create a society that works. So we're going to be meeting again this afternoon, and I showed Roman where we're going to be meeting, and we'll see what happens. We're supposed to meet in about an hour. So after the meditation class, we went to visit my friend Sergey, who I've been friends with for quite a while, and actually met Nellie and Irina through Sergey. And Sergey has adopted two little kids. One of them is a 5-year-old girl, and another the little boy is 3 years old. I mentioned them yesterday, and they're just adorable. He left them at home, but another American guy named Ryan, he was there, and Ryan is also an English teacher, and his Russian wife was there with their son. So we had a nice dinner, and it was at an Uzbek restaurant. So I don't know, I had Uzbek bread, and I had kind of, what do you call it, like shish kebab, a kind of kebab with chicken. And I also had borscht, you know, which is beet soup. And I was a little surprised because it had a big kind of a decent-sized slab of beef in it, which I didn't expect. But I eat what's given. I usually don't eat beef. So there I was, and we just talked about ordinary things, nothing special. And then Sergey had to leave, and Ryan had to leave. So Sergey drove us home, me and Irina and Nellie. He drove us home. Ryan had to leave with his kid early. So it was just a really nice day, and Ryan mentioned that he was going to be going back to the U.S. to visit his parents, and he doesn't really want to go back, but he said that they said, we're going to pay for your trip, please come back. And he said, oh, that's an offer I can't refuse. So he'll be going back there for a little while. And we talk about the situation in the U.S., and we pretty much agree that things are looking rather grim there, I would say. He thought that Trump was better than Biden, but I don't buy that for a minute. I think they're both terrible. So all you thought police out there, you can put me on record as opposing the last two presidents, if not more. And I think that's basically it. As I say, we're going to be going downtown again, which is just about a 10 to 15 minute walk from here, and meeting these young ladies that were at the yoga class, the meditation class at the yoga studio yesterday, and I'll see what they have to say. I'm sure it'll be an interesting afternoon, and the day it looks like I think it'll be pretty good. It's kind of sunny right now, but the strange thing, it seems like in the afternoon it gets cloudy, and then we get some pretty nasty rain. But so I hope the weather will hold out. We'll have to see. But I guess that's it for now. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk with you soon. And I'll show some video. I'll show some pictures and things of what happened yesterday. So talk to you soon.